Welcome back to Cybersea of Galilee, DSMME, on this feast of the great Saint George. How many of you guys are named George or know someone named George? He's a great saint. And with us today, we have Sister Magdalena, and she is going to explain Saint George.
Yeah, well, I mean, sister, to be honest, when I think of St. George, I really do think of little boys wanting to dress up as St. George for All Saints Day. He is definitely the number one saint for them because they want to wear armor. And I say, well, is there any other reason why you want to be St. George? And they just give you that blank little boy, look at my sword. But truth be told, there isn't much known about St. George. He's a very mysterious saint. And probably the most common thing that people know about him is the myth of him slaying the dragon, saving the princess, from this, saving this kingdom from this dragon that was kind of terrorizing these people.
The dragon spitting out fire.
Oh, yes. And so, but really, truth be told, when we think of St. George, we picture that knight in shining armor, maybe more like the Middle Ages, but it's not true at all. St. George was a Roman soldier, so he died under the persecution of Diocletian, who was purging his armies from Christian soldiers. And so, in many ways, St. George was like St. Sebastian in that sense.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And it's really beautiful because at his canonization, the Pope said, well, there's, men revere him, but his acts are only known by God. So even at his canonization, they're not really sure. He became this great martyr, and it's because of the virtue I think he displayed. And I think that, as a Roman soldier, when he experienced a conversion, he brought his whole self to it. And I think that engaging in that spiritual warfare, I think, would have really appealed to him to see fighting worldly battles, fighting fighting for an emperor and kind of a corrupt emperor, and saying, there is a heavenly kingdom and the God of the universe that now I'm fighting for. And so I think that it was very likely that he was meditating on the letter of St. Paul to the Ephesians, when St. Paul says, put on the armor of God. Because as St. Paul wrote that, he was in prison. He was surrounded by 2 Roman soldiers, and I'm willing to bet that he was looking at them, watching their movements and their actions, and he wrote that last little exhortation for the Ephesians with these Roman soldiers in the Roman armor in mind. And I think that, St. George, he would have seen his armor, seen how important it was, and he would have meditated on that, saying, how do I apply that to the spiritual life? What is that spiritual armor that is so necessary?
Wow, I think I have a new devotion to St. George. Sister, you have just told me so much more than I ever knew about St. George. To me, honestly, he still was a mystery. Yeah. So now I'm going to absolutely love St. George that much more because, again, those Roman martyrs, and that's just beautiful. And what grade level do you teach?
I teach 5th grade.
No wonder your 5th grade boys would absolutely love St. George and the armor. And I'm sure they love you too, sister. Thank you so much for joining us on Cybersea of Galilee, DSMME with St. George, the Blessed Mother, and Jesus inside Mary. God bless.